Okay. So are we live?
I'm just connecting. Facebook is just not picking up today.
Yeah, okay. Well, that is not so good, right?
We're going.
Mostly.
Hello,
Okay,
everyone.
here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 4 of Eutonia Diaries. Today we have with us Johannes Fisslinger, who is the founder of Lifestyle Prescription University, author of The 6 Root Causes of All Symptoms, filmmaker of Lifestyle Medicine documentary, and producer of Lifestyle Medicine Summit. Welcome, Johannes. It's all yours.
Hi, Gita. Nice to be here. Thanks for the invitation to speak and to share.
Wonderful, wonderful having you on board. So could you tell us more about what you do and all about your talk today? You can take it forward.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So thanks everybody listening live. I know Facebook or YouTube or wherever you listen, or if you watch the replay, thank you. And we spend about 20, 25 minutes today. I'd like to, the talk, we titled it the Revolutionary New Healing Paradigm. And this is, I think, what we really need. And, you know, over the last month with the whole crisis that we have, it shows even more how little we trust actually our own body, how little we know about how our body, how symptoms work, how viruses, microbiome, how is that important? Is it something we have to be fearful about? And I've seen over the last 2 months such a tremendous amount of fear. And I think we can look at it from a surface, or we go a little deeper. And I think that's what I'd like to do here, that we really need to have a completely different model of what health, what disease, what healing is, and not just trying to fix things here and there. And I'm talking here about the traditional perspective and also the complementary, alternative, natural perspective. Somehow it didn't work back what we did over the last 30 years, right? So what I'm proposing is a complete new shift, and that requires us to educate ourselves more, to be more responsible. And basically, that's why we developed or created over the last 5-6 years and taught thousands of health professionals through the Lifestyle Prescriptions University. And so, by the way, if you listen, please type into the chat box wherever you are. And I hope Gita then, and thank you, Gita, first of all, for inviting me, right, and for monitoring. And so I'd love to answer questions that you have, questions about your own health issues that you have, because then we start to learn more, right? So I answer your specific questions and explain that self-healing mechanism as we go along. So it's about 20, 25 minutes with a Q&A afterwards. And as I said, there is, you know, one of the things that we really need to shift, and that is kind of my personal life mission, to educate about conscious and healthy living, but specifically with Lifestyle Prescriptions University and our network. We have a network of professionals and trainers like Gita all over the world. And what we really need to do, move or expand our healthcare system and add lifestyle medicine. I use that term because I think it describes what we really need to do. Because right now the problem is, and please everybody think, if you have some major issue or if you have a symptom, 99% of people will go to a doctor, which is great. We need emergency medicine, right? Especially in the alternative complementary field. We often say, we don't need that. Yes, we do. It's absolutely essential to treat symptoms if we have to, but especially with chronic health issues, we need to find different ways. And so if we go to a doctor, the vision that we have is that there are 2 options. And as you know, the lifestyle prescription is basically mostly what we do right now. We write an RX medicine prescription. That's what we do. And a lot of people like it. Obviously, there's advantages, quick fixes, and so on. But it doesn't work very well for chronic issues, which is about 70-80% of the symptoms that we have are chronic. And by the way, whatever I say here is absolutely researched. There is no question about the research anymore. The lifestyle medicine, you can go to our website, lifestyleprescriptions.tv, click on the research link. There is tons of research for the last 20, 30 years. So it's not about asking if this is valid or not. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is how can we implement it? How can we implement what we know to be true, that lifestyle medicine, making lifestyle changes and not just making like eat better, right? Lifestyle means how we deal with emotions, how we deal with our stress, the social stresses that we have, lifestyle in terms of diet and exercise. These basic things we know we can stop and reverse 80%. Think about this, that we can reverse up to 80% of the chronic health issues if we know what we do. And so I'd like everybody to really think about this, especially in times now where we're so fearful about symptoms. And what I'd like to do in a minute, go a little bit deeper and explain what is that self-healing mechanism, right? But the vision is that in 5, 10 years, you go to a health professional and they offer choices. A doctor's office, a clinic, they say, hey, you can do the quick fix emergency medicine option, or you can do the lifestyle medicine option. And I write a lifestyle prescription. I maybe send you to a health coach that works in my network. And that is what we really need. And we see it in UK, you see it in the US and many other countries, that the medical field, traditional medical field, starts to understand that we need to shift. We need to bring health coaches into the healthcare system that are really well trained, that either have degrees or highly trained and highly competent. And then if we have chronic issues, a health coach works with that client on an ongoing basis to change these habits that we know they need to change. So I'd like to visualize everybody right now. Just think how that feels. If a doctor would give you, when you have a symptom, a doctor says, well, you can go the treat the symptom only, fix me route. Some people prefer that. Others might say, hey, I really want to make a difference in my life. And I have to say also in terms of the complementary field that we hear a lot about, we still have often this treating symptoms mentality. And so I think that's something we need to really shift. So that's the big picture, right? And I'd like everybody that has health issues and spread that kind of knowledge and wisdom about lifestyle medicine, that the science is there. And when you have health issues, ask your doctor about, hey, do you offer lifestyle medicine option? Do you offer lifestyle prescription? Do you have a health coach I can work with? Right? So that's the big picture. But the next step is, and I want to focus on that specifically, is we need to also develop more trust into our body, into what we call, there is an art and science of self-healing, which means we know by now, again, Yugita and so many others, thousands work with this system, with the art and science of self-healing. We call it lifestyle prescription, root cause analysis, and health coaching, where the first thing is we know exactly what are the root causes. And there are 6 specific root causes that we can work on. And I bring up a slide in a minute. There is also 9 points and phases. Every organ tissue in our body goes through very specific a timeline, a specific cycle and process with different symptoms. And if we don't know that, it's, we can be confused. A symptom comes up and it's, oh my God, why do I have this back pain? Why do I have the eczema? Why is my heart palpitation going up? Why is my back pain now so bad? I thought I'm doing well, right? It is because we misinterpret this natural healing cycle of our body. And so, again, Gita, if you have questions from the audience about specific health issues, I'd love to bring them in, and you can obviously post them yourself here in the chat, or just open up the mic and I talk about that. So
probably we will do it at the end of your talk.
That's also fine. That's also fine. So I hope that's okay that you see the slide now.
Yeah, we do.
Perfect. So there are basically three things that we need to talk about when we talk about the art and science of self-healing. And again, we see it often. People talk about self-healing, and yes, emotions play a big role. Stress plays a big role. Our thoughts, our beliefs, right, play a big role in health. Lifestyle does. But the strength, I think, the way we use this art and science of self-healing at Lifestyle Prescription University is that we teach this specific root cause analysis process that is so precise that, you know, we don't really need intuition. Like, you give me a symptom, right? Somebody might have a symptom. Let's take eczema, right? So somebody has eczema, which is basically hot, itchy, red, inflamed skin. And let's just say it's the right cheek. That's all I need to know if I've trained in root cause analysis, the way we teach that. That's all I need to know, first of all, what kind of stress, what kind of stressor or conflict theme that I experienced that triggered this skin to react with a symptom. I know pretty much exactly, without trying to be intuitive or whatever, I know which emotion is connected with that skin rash. I know what that person, that client, is thinking, what's bugging them, right? I know what kind of life situation they must have experienced. And I know which lifestyle habits they might have developed because of that. And the reason why we know is there is an organ-mind-brain connection. Let me say it again. Organ-mind-brain connection, or the way phrase it, organ-mind-brain anatomy. Think about it. In medicine, it's so successful because they're really amazing in anatomy. They know everything about our body. But we have to expand that. We cannot just stay in our body because we do know there is more to it. And so we have this organ, mind, brain anatomy that we teach and use on a daily basis with our clients. So think about it. If I know, just because biology, our body is incredibly smart, right? It's not that the symptoms that we have, there is a problem, something is wrong. No. And I've seen it even in the natural integrative field. You know, I've done this for 30, 40 years. And even now, especially with Corona and the situations that happen, increase of chronic symptoms, so often we still look at our symptoms, at the microbiome in our body as something bad, as something wrong, as some error that happens, something we have to attack and fight. We can do that. But like so many of our doctors, what they say is we create more chronic disease at this point. So what we need to do is switch to a self-healing autoregulation model in our science, in our mind, in our therapies, that we know, hey, why is the body showing that eczema? And knowing that body's intelligence is, I mean, one of the things that I always keep in the back of my mind, and I'd like everybody to think about that for a second and integrate it. What if every organ tissue in your body would show symptoms only if you are triggered by specific stressors, conflicts, and certain emotion that you experience and certain thoughts that you have? If that is part of this process of self-healing and the symptoms you experience are not something wrong, right? It's actually amazing to know, to notice, wow, I just have that eczema. What did I just experience? What just happened? There's intelligence to it. And another thing that we use on a daily basis is these 9 points and phases. To me, that was one of the most revealing things. And so I'd like you to just for a second, if you have a symptom right now, If you had one just recently, go back to that time, right, where you had that symptom. And did you notice, which I'm sure you did, that symptoms do shift and change? So with the eczema, sometimes the eczema flares up. Sometimes the eczema actually kind of disappears. It's kind of passive, right? And what we've noticed, there are two main phases that every organ tissue in our body goes through. We call it the stress phase. Something triggers us into the stress phase. Then we have symptoms on the organ tissue, like the eczema. We start to think about and feel certain emotions. And the interesting part is, what is that conflict, that stressor about, right? Which I share in a minute. So we are stressed into a certain conflict, stress activity. And then once that stress is gone, our body repairs and regenerates, which you see here in blue. So what I'd like you to do just for today, if you're new to this, just pay more attention to the cycle of the symptoms that you experience. And with the eczema, for example, most of us kind of think, oh, I must have been in the stress phase when the eczema is really bad, but it's actually the other way around. The eczema, the rash, a lot of the fevers that we experience are part of the repair regeneration phase. Once we know that actually, wow, this is actually not something bad happening, but this self-healing mechanism, even if inflammation, if you have a fever, it's an important part of our body to go through its natural healing cycle. It's called autoregulation. And before that, obviously, when there is less stress, the eczema actually hasn't arisen yet, the rash, that's when we are in the stress phase. So what I'd like you to do, everybody, just go back, right? And notice whatever symptom you had, what are the shifts and changes? And we've had so many of our clients, they had this aha experience. Oh my God, yeah. And now suddenly a disease that we might have been diagnosed with, or we think it's that symptom that we have, it becomes a process. And a process is a habit. What if we start thinking of our symptoms as habits? As important habits, because our body is not fighting against us. Whenever we have a reaction in our body, it's actually our biology taking over. It's part of our survival mechanism. It's part of that mechanism. Well, how can we balance out these stresses that we have in our lives? And the problem is, obviously, if it takes a long time, that chronic process, that's when we need to step in and break that chronic cycle. Another thing that is just incredibly powerful is knowing which stressor, which type of conflict theme is affecting specific organ tissue. So the skin eczema, I give you some examples. Think about, ask yourself, why do we have the skin? Right? This is a question that kind of totally shifts your thinking. Why do we have skin? Think about it. We have the skin, right? And suddenly eczema shows up. Why would the body do that? These are powerful questions. Dean Ornish, like the kind of developer, or one of the top lifestyle medicine experts in the world that did a lot of the initial research, always says we have to ask the why. Not just try to do therapy right away and quickly, but step back. Why is this happening? What is the root cause or the root causes? Where is our client? Where are we in the self-healing process? So the skin, most of us say it's protection, right? The skin is protection, but that's actually not true for the top layer. This thin top layer where the rash is about touch, right? We touch people through skin. It's a kinesthetic form of sensation, the sense of touch. Now, if we experience a stressful touch-related situation, like a separation, divorce. A child has to go to school without wanting to go, loses a touch with the mom. At birth, a lot of children have skin eczema rashes right when we take them away from the most important thing in their life, their mom, after birth. So once we know what these stresses are and why we have these different organ tissue, which goes back to organ, mind, brain anatomy, a whole new world opens up. We ask different questions. So you can ask right now different questions. Why do I have the skin? Why do I have back pain? What's the skeletal muscular system for? Right? What is it for? It's standing up straight, standing tall. So it kind of makes sense, right? If we have a self-devaluation, if we feel I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, and these are the thoughts that we have with emotions that always show up with clients that have skeletal pain, shoulder pain, lower back pain, knee pain problems. And so our body is so brilliant. And once we start to understand and know and decode that body's intelligence, that brilliance, for us as health professionals, and it doesn't matter if you're complementary, if you are in the traditional field, whatever field you are, however you work with clients, knowing organ, mind, brain anatomy, and this self-healing mechanisms in our body, everything change. Your current modalities improve, and obviously at the Lifestyle Prescriptions University, we teach our practitioners one excellent skill and tool and technique to work at any of these root causes. And before I go into the question, that's another thing I think is really important, that if you work with clients, then know that there are 6 root causes. The body is complex, right? I hear so often, oh, it's all emotions, especially in the complementary field. Well, yes, emotions are very important, but emotions are the juice, right? It's the intensity, the life force, emotion, energy in motion. It's the energy that we might hold in a certain organ tissue. If you release it, we feel a lot better. But why do often these emotions and symptoms come back? Well, because our thinking didn't really change, our life didn't change, and our stresses that we have in our life did not change. So we need to look at all the root causes. Very often, the clients that we have, they don't have enough life force, right? They don't have enough energy. So we work on them and do all these wonderful things, but still they don't seem to be able to break through and totally fully auto-regulate because they don't have enough life force, which is basically has a lot to do with lifestyle. So again, that's basically, we teach all these techniques and skills. It might look complex, but it's not. Once you scale it down to that our body is highly intelligent, and we decode it, and we learn how to use this with clients and also in our daily lives. So, Gita, do you have some questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I do have a few questions which have come in. The first one is, you said something about social stress. What does it mean and how does it affect us? And does that mean that the coronavirus incident, which is happening now, will affect us?
Yes, it will affect us. It does affect us, right? Nobody can deny that. But the question is, do we allow it to affect us? Which is the beautiful thing. This has so much to do. Our body is our temple. We know that from a spiritual perspective, but it's actually absolutely true from a biology perspective. Our body is our temple, and our consciousness, where we are, determines how the outside world affects us. It's not the world that affects us, it's if we perceive it that way. So in terms of the current situation, or let's maybe not go so global, right? Social. Obviously, it affects us, but let's chunk it down a little bit to more specific. So for example, if I'm living in an abusive relationship, that is more real, right? It's very specific. That probably happens in many cases in different levels to some of us. Now, if I do a lot of emotional clearing, it's going to help. If I know and I have awareness, it's going to help. If I change my thinking about it, I might be okay with it and manage. But in many cases, we need to then consider, well, do we need to change our social situation? If I'm living in an environment that is very toxic, let's say air or food or water or whatever it is, we need to consider, right? And so as part of habit change, I think it's very important to look at our life, our own habits, and where we live, because we constantly interact with our environment. So it's not just right now the big social situation, right? But it's in an individual situation. So if I've cleared up my internal, we change internally, and then we have to see also, well, is it something I need to change in my life? And one of the things that we use, obviously, with lifestyle prescription, that's what the word really says, right? We use the lifestyle prescription. I want to write one together. We're going to write one for all of us in a minute. And think about it, when you go to a doctor says, well, for the next 7 days, you take this pill, one pill in the morning, writes the prescription, right? You're very likely going to do it. Very likely. Because it comes from an authority and it's going to help you if it's, for example, it's symptom treatment. The same thing we need to establish in healthcare, that there are lifestyle prescriptions, healthy prescriptions, that help us to establish new habits. And so we're going to do this in a minute, okay? Stay here until we do that, 5-10 minutes or so. Okay, was that clear, Gita? In terms of social,
it was brilliant.
Is very important.
It's very
we underestimate our social environment, right? And I think it becomes clear more now than ever. So we have to consciously, and that's the difference. Most of these processes, the symptoms that we have, the thoughts we have, the emotions we experience, that trigger, the little needles that trigger us into conscious habits. This is not a conscious thought. These are repetitive, unconscious, automated habits. And so that's why we see now our symptoms as habits. Because if I am triggered, I go to my boss, I go to work. The boss is very mean to us, every day says mean things, puts us down. And that's the stress, social type of stress. We take it very seriously. We have a strong emotion, like we're very sad about that. We feel like, oh, I'm not good. I'm really stupid. I'm not smart enough, right? The self-devaluation type of thoughts. And then over time, we develop shoulder or lower back problems, right? That's a habit. If we change the trigger, release that, if we change our emotions, let go of these unresolved emotional hurts, change our thinking, right? That we are triggered into self-devaluation thoughts, and we change our lifestyle and our social environment, we're not going to have the back pain. And so addressing these different levels is important. And for that to do, it needs qualified lifestyle medicine, lifestyle prescriptions, health coaches like Gita and many others, Sonali, also India, many others that work with this model.
Wonderful. So I guess this does not leave any doubt as to the resources we have and how we can improve on our health by ourselves or with the help of practitioners. But there's another question. Based on what you have told us so far, how do we live life on a daily basis?
Great question. Great question. Now, I don't know what the specific situation is, but what we need to do is, first of all, shift our thinking. And to do that, obviously, we need to be more aware. Awareness is always the first part of the process. And so for right now, for everybody that listens, it's slightly different. Some of you might do a lot of things already, but I think to start with, just spending time, like in a meditative state. Like, I know a lot of you probably do yoga or do some kind of meditation. That's a good starting point. But the next thing is, and that's what I'd like actually to do in terms of all of us write a lifestyle prescriptions for ourselves. I'm not going to do it for you, right? But everybody that's listening right now, take a piece of paper. You don't have that prescription pad, right? Take a piece of paper and just for a minute, just feel your body, right? Feel your body, different parts of your body, and ask your unconscious mind, what is a one tiny little habit you can shift right now that you know is going to make a big difference in your life? First thing that comes up. So what is that little habit that something you can tweak and twist and shift in your life right now that's going to make a big difference? And I'm talking about something real. For some of us, for me, for example, it would be like just basically having a constant yoga or fitness practice, because I've been lacking that so much over the last month. For some of us, it might be there's so much emotional charge that we have that we need to forgive, right? That we have some stressors, some with some person that is just eating us up inside. Obviously, if you can work with someone that is trained, that's ideal, but there's so much you can do. So for right now, what's the one habit that you can shift in your life? And the way to write this is, for the next 7 days, you do it every single day. So write that down. So it has to be super specific and super clear for you. So you know exactly what you're going to do, this new habit. And then commit. Just know, this is what I'm going to do. I practice that. So what that does, it helps us to start and to shift, right? We have to step out of our comfort zone, and we take the responsibility and do it. Okay, so this is a starting point. And obviously, if you'd like to take the next step, we also have at the Lifestyle Prescriptions University website, there's a free video training. You can go deeper into that. And also, I know Gita is offering a lot of options how to take these next steps and to go into the different root causes. And again, the key is that we make internally, we make a clear decision that we improve, that we take the next step. And we have resources available. We have a network that we can work with, that we can connect with. So if we do have questions, if we need help, we take advantage of that network and the professionals that are going to move us in the right direction. Another question, Gita?
Yeah, there are a couple more. Is it possible for a symptom we had, say like eczema, to return after 10 years? And does that mean that we still have the issue, or there is something else happening in us?
Absolutely. I'm telling you, we've doing this for so many years now. We've seen pretty much every health issue, every symptom disappear. And the reason is because if we shift inside, if we release, let me be specific. So with the eczema, if the eczema is still there, basically it means in the regeneration phase, you have increased eczema, rash, itchiness, and in stress, a little bit less, or it's more like a numb type of sensation on the skin, right? And you go stress repair, that cycle kind of repeats itself again and again. That's what we call chronic, right? And it's very easy to distinguish, where are you? Is that person right now in the regeneration phase, like 5 here on this image here, which means the itchiness is higher, is more, right? Because actually the body is trying to repair, but we never complete the process. So what we need to do is, first of all, become aware of this loss of touch, separation type of theme and conflict that we have. because very likely you've seen it with hundreds of clients. We kind of re-triggered. For example, we think about that loss situation. It might have been a divorce. It might have been like whatever type of loss of touch situation we had experienced in the past, let's say 10 years ago that started. And even if it's been 10 years, 30 years, these things can be changed, but not just to do a little bit here and there. I'm sorry if I say that because I see it so often, right? Oh, let's try this method. Let's try that method. Oh, I feel a lot better. And it returns. I don't want to discourage people, but I want you to be more serious about it. If you want to resolve this, then you have to commit to it and do the things that are needed, which means let go of that unresolved emotional hurt. Very often with skin, it's sadness, the sadness or the kind of, sadness very often in terms of that sadness of the separation, of the loss that's still lingering inside of us. Think about it. It's kind of like the emotion is not somewhere in our body. It's right there where the eczema is. That's where the energy of that emotion is. If you think energetically, right? The thoughts are still there. So we need to practice thinking thoughts, become aware of that loss kind of emotion and thought, and then shift that chronic process, which is what's triggering us. So for example, just a recent client, whenever she thinks about the kid that left to college about 5-6 years ago, so she's thinking about the kid that is not living at home anymore, she kind of felt like so sad about it. And it kind of, for like a few days, that whole sadness with, oh my God, my kid, and why is he not here, and so on, that kind of stress phase, right? And it's kind of like boiling, not much physical symptom yet, right? It's actually less, it's less sensitivity on the skin because we're on the stress phase, right? Stress hormones are raging. We think about it and so on. We have high emotions. But then she kind of slept over it and kind of forgot about it, right? We call this the regeneration trigger, where we shift into the repair mechanism. The body says, now I can relax. The skin epidermis can relax. Now the itchiness, now the eczema starts. And so in the 3-4 days, it's over. But then in a week or two, the whole thing starts again. So just becoming aware of it's going to make a huge difference. Where often the symptoms drop 50%. So for everybody, right, you have different symptoms. For now, the biggest thing I've found that works so well is just drop into that organ tissue, allow it to feel it more. So whatever symptom you have, feel it a bit deeper, breathe into it, experience it, and kind of become aware of the cycles and the thoughts and the emotions that are connected with that. And that is the first stepping stone. It's the first step of making bigger and bigger shifts inside. See, our body, we cannot separate our body from ourselves. We are a reflection. Our body is a reflection of who we are. And so changing ourselves, which is in a way an amazing personal growth, spiritual conscious process, will shift the symptoms that we have. And one of the biggest tools I found, next to all the therapeutic techniques, obviously, that many of us have to help a client, just see, what is it that I need to forgive? Forgiveness is incredibly powerful, and everybody can do that. So if there is some kind of loss or some kind of fight you have, how can you forgive that person and yourself and let that energy go? And this is a very conscious process that everybody can do. And you're going to be surprised how much life improves, how much energy you're going to have, how much symptoms start to disappear if you do that.
Well, I'm sure that has answered this person's question. Now I have a very good question coming up. You said a symptom is a habit. Can it also be a belief?
Good question. Well, everybody think 6 root causes. Belief is one aspect of that habit. every organ tissue, and we're talking now the body, right? Organ, mind, brain, it's always synchronous in the whole body. It's not just the body, it's not just the mind, it's not just the brain activity, right? We're constantly reacting, our beingness, our whole being reacts to life, adjusts, right? As something stresses us, our thinking changes. Suddenly an emotion pops up at the same time, physically a symptom shows. Beliefs are just unconscious, repetitive, automated thoughts. Most of us we think consciously, but it's very rare actually. We have really conscious thoughts. If we have conscious thoughts, like we're in a meditative state or more in a conscious state, then we might have creative, conscious thoughts. It's kind of the frontal cortex is activated. But most of the thoughts that kind of pop into our minds are not conscious thoughts. They are unconscious habits as part of this whole process. So for example, if I suddenly have a thought, why did he do that to me? Right? That was not right. He shouldn't have done that. That's a belief. Right? I should not have done that. I'm not good enough. Why is he always fighting with me? That kind of thing. These are all repetitive thoughts, which at its core are beliefs that we have. And there's an emotion attached to that. So I might get really angry. Why did he do that? And the anger is a 10 from a 0 scale, right? Subjective units of distress. We measure our emotions, obviously, always, which is a big thing. I think we need to start measuring our emotions, our beliefs, the stress organ, and constantly know where we at. So if I have an anger, a 10, because somebody did something in my thought, my belief is I am right. The way I do things are right, the right way to do it. That's a 10 also, a very strong belief. And then we need to check what triggered it. I mean, that thought, that emotion just didn't appear out of nothing, right? It doesn't make sense. So something triggered me to have that automated thought, that automated emotion. For example, I just think about that person, or I actually saw that person, or for example, I talked to the person, or it's not so much I talked, but the person said something to me in a certain type of voice. These are the things that trigger us. So stress triggers an emotion, triggers at the same time a belief, triggers at the same time an organ tissue. Let me give you another example. If somebody has stomach ulceration, stomach pain, high sensitivity in the stomach, we know lots of client cases, right? Lots of having helped people resolve it. Organ is the stomach mucosa. It's the thin layer in the stomach. That is when we have territorial fights with someone and we cannot digest. Why did he say that to me, right? For example, that's the stress trigger. The emotion might be an anger. The thought is, what I said before, it's territorial type of fighting type of situations. So we have symptoms on all these levels. And that's why we need to step back and not just look, oh, I have a belief, I change my belief. Yes, that's perfect. If we can change the beliefs, truly change that automated belief into a conscious, empowering belief, the emotion will disappear at the same time, the stress trigger will disappear, and the symptom will disappear. If the chronic process is not resolved, then we need to just look, hey, what is still keeping this chronic health issue, this chronic cycle going, and resolve the other aspects. So think 6 root causes, and we go, every organ tissue goes through 9 points and phases. And most important, it's that number 1, the number 3 down here. Everything happening in your body, think about it as brilliant, as smart, as signposts that you can use to say, oh, why is my body doing that? For example, if I have a symptom, and now Gita and all of us that live this, right? We integrate this into our lives on a daily basis with clients and personal. Just recently, I had some right shoulder pain here. Just happened. Usually never have that. And so I stop and say, oh, why would my body show this symptom right now? And then I know what's the shoulder about in terms of the type of stressor that would attach or activate my right shoulder. And I start to increase that awareness. Ah, yes, I had this conversation 3 days ago with someone. I become aware of it. I'm letting it go. I forgive. And the pain disappeared in 20 minutes. So this is very much a self-awareness kind of process that everyone can do. And just know beliefs, emotions, stress, organs, all one aspect of an organ tissue reaction. It's our body, our organ, mind, brain adjusting to life. And once we make the connection between body, emotions, thoughts that start to appear and what happens in our lives, it shifts everything.
Brilliant.
Okay, maybe one more question, Gita, if you have, otherwise.
And now we're done with the questions.
Yeah, perfect. So again, what everyone can do, just go to lifestyleprescriptions.tv, and I'm sure that we post the link also in here, or ask Gita, obviously, locally, amazing Lifestyle Prescription University trainer and faculty member to give you more and to not just, kind of, I'm curious about that. I think that's okay. We read about this stuff on Facebook, right? Everywhere. We feed our minds with all this information. But if you really want to shift and improve your life, you need to change your habits. I'm sorry. And I'm talking about how you react to stress, specific stressors and stress in general, how you process emotions, how you think and what you think, and the real life social and lifestyle, nutrition, how you sleep, exercise, all this. It's something we need to change. And the moment we do change internally, our outer world totally shifts and improves tremendously. So it's so worth it, but it's not a quick fix, right? And that's what I want to instill in everybody watching and listening. Lifestyle medicine, lifestyle prescription is more about making sustainable, true, deep biological shifts where your body shifts, your emotion shifts, your awareness shifts. You just change. You're a new person, which is absolutely going to be amazing.
Thank you, Johannes. Thank you for this brilliant speech and talk you have given us. I'm sure it's left our viewers with a new perception as to how they can deal with happenings in their everyday life and how they could make a shift towards better health. I hope they take this forward. And thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you.
You.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.